Hello again. This is going to be a video where I talk about how I make FT4 contacts using amateur radio satellites. So I've made a video about it before, but the antennas that I use for my station are the M2 antennas egg beaters. So this is the current setup on the roof with disc cone and the VHF and UHF egg beater antenna. And these guys have about 100-foot runs of coax, that's LMR 400, that comes all the way back to the ICOM 9700, which is the radio I use for in the shack satellite operations. So on my QRZ page at the moment is this mostly accurate station architecture diagram. So this has the VHF egg beater and the UHF egg beater go to an alpha delta lightning arrestor, which goes to a ground rod bonded to the house ground, all that jazz, just to provide a little bit of protection from that should these get hit by lightning. And then they come right to the 9700, which has one dedicated Morse code key to it, American Morse Porter Paddle 2, love this key. And then the PTRX 9700 pan adapter. This is the one by Radio Analog. That's a bit of a doozy of a story for another time, but there's actually two PTRX 9700s, and there's only one PTRX 7300 on the HF side here. This goes to an RF splitter and then also allows in a GPS DO just to frequency lock the ICOM. And this goes to low noise amplifiers to get a little bit better signal noise ratio performance. These guys have like a noise figure 1, 2, or 3 dB, and the AirSpy has like 8, and the RTL-SDR is probably about the same. So the AirSpy is what I use for awareness of what's going on the transponder on my PC and to record baseband of passes that I'm actively working. And then the RTL-SDR goes to a Raspberry Pi, which runs SatNogs, which I have an auto scheduler on just to keep tabs on the amateur radio satellites, help diagnose issues and whatnot, and keep our birds flying. So the actual setup for operations on the computer has evolved a bit over time. I've been working on, yes, something so simple as how to lay out the windows on my screen for probably 4 months now. And this all started from November Uniform 1 Uniforms video, where he goes over what they described in the AMSAT journal of how FT4 ops should be done. So that's 2 instances of WSJTX, one that has no CAT control at all, and instead hooks into the radio for a direct PTT line over DTR RTS, and the other one that does receive only, so that you can hear yourself as you transmit on the downlink. So this one, I don't need to access any of these controls, so I put this up in the upper left, and then I just let that 3 kilohertz audio waterfall there for the FT4 ops hang out, and this is where we look for people's signals that we're going to be able to actually decode. This one does transmit only, so I don't actually need to see this waterfall at all. I just need to see where my red bit is that you can shift click and move around, and that will set my transmit location in the passband. Now I pretty much recommend just putting this right in the center. I put the lower edge on 1500. If you were going to legally run 60 meters FT8 in the United States, that one's another doozy. You would obviously want to put the center of that on 1.5 kilohertz, but here not such an issue, and I don't need to see this, so I just put it so I can see just that and move it around if I want to. Then the power slider is going to be rather important because we want to dynamically adjust power to only use the minimum amount of power we need, stay below the beacon, and not hog transponder power. Then this is SDR++, which is our candidate friend to replace SDR Sharp in the hobbyist community, written by some great folks, many of them, primarily Alexander Ruma, has been working on this. And this guy has a built-in rig CTL server, so I just have that initializing on startup. And then gpredict is very well set up to do Doppler correction for this, just to have a wider bandwidth spectrum awareness capability on the PC and the ability to record baseband, which is not something that the ICOM 9700's waterfall is going to let me do. And for anybody thinking about it, I've checked on WFView a couple times recently for the 9700, and it seems like they're working on a SAT mode but it's really just not quite there yet, so I can't use that for viewing the waterfall and running reliable satellite operations at the moment. So gpredict does Doppler correction for the broader spectrum awareness and recording, and it also is what I use to keep tabs on everything at once, and I'm just a huge fan of the sideways view for pass predictions with the sky at a glance option. And then you can just go in here and see here's the RS-44 pass that I'm going to be trying to work as a demo for this video in just a few minutes here. And that's the north to south pass. You'll notice I have south up, and I figure someone's going to ask. So south is up because I'm sitting at my desk and I am facing south right now. This just helps me to conceptualize where in the physical sky the bird is, and lets me get an idea of maybe how my antennas on the roof might be interacting with each other. Like if I'm having some issues right here, I might hypothesize that the disk cone is interfering with propagation in that direction. I've yet to do enough operations to really observe that and confirm whether that's an issue, but it's just something useful to map real-world obstructions to what's going on the computer screen view. And then the star of the show for AMSAT, of course, is SatPC32. Program's been around for quite a while, and this guy does great Doppler correction and direct cat interfaces to radios. And its UI, I will confess, it does look not so modern. And it is definitely difficult to learn how to use parts of this because some of these things don't look like you can click them, right? Like this is the V switches between VFO mode or not, and the plus is active and the minus is not. So minus will go to whatever specific frequency bit you're picking in out of the Doppler file here. And plus will let you scroll around with these guys. And then there's a bunch of keyboard shortcuts, which I've seen in a couple obscure Facebook posts. But this program is incredibly powerful if you learn all the UI tips and tricks. There was some video I just looked for how to use SatPC32 where somebody went over what all this does, and quite great. So the main two buttons that I'm going to be concerned with here are the VFO mode, which I'm going to want to be off unless I detect somebody in the passband running FT4 not where we've all agreed to, or the cat control activation right here. So on the hardware side of things, the way this interfaces to the radio is very simple. It's just one USB cable for the 9700, which advertises 2 COM ports to the computer. And that 1 COM port I have just doing the PTT function over DTR or RTS. I don't recall which I have it set as right now. And SatPC32 talks to the other COM port for actual control and does all the Doppler. So we're going to be working RS-44, which tends to have reliable orbital elements from wherever you get that, be that Celestrak, AMSAT, or Cal Poly. So there's not usually too much to worry about there. It's up rather high, and the Doppler doesn't tend to be too severe in my experience. There are other satellites like XW2A, which sometimes the TLEs get a little bit old, and I just have to finagle it between the AMSAT NASA Bear, which I believe is updated more regularly than amateur.txt, or try Celestrak, and maybe it is magically better. But definitely make sure your TLEs are up to date because Doppler correction has to be on point for FT4 to work. Another interesting thing I noted is, well, RS-44 was pretty great for FT4, but AO7, which is in a very similar orbit and will work as long as we have sunlight, really is not. And that's because AO7 doesn't have a stable oscillator on the board, and whether that is a result of thermal or power characteristics doesn't really matter, but the shift in frequency all over the place that makes the CW contacts you can make on that bird sound like aurora propagation will throw your FT4 completely off. The other satellites that I mainly use for FT4 are CAS4A and 4B. These guys are great, really strong VHF downlinks, UHF uplink. EO88's great, it only works in Eclipse though. FO99 and FO29 are by schedule only. XW3 is a little bit weak of a transponder for me. AO109, I think they said that the antenna actually just popped off or never deployed, something like that. And people have actually worked FT4 off of it just because of how capable it is as a weak signal mode. JO97 is usually on most of the time. I've had good results there. So there's a good bit of birds that support this. AO73 is still going strong, the FunCube 1, flown by UK AMSAT. And so those are what I tend to use to make contacts. I've had the most success on RS-44 because of the high orbit, large footprint, pretty strong transponder, and the stable oscillators on board. The one caveat with RS-44 is that, well, actually, you can see it right from its name in the satellite catalog here, RS-44/Breeze-KM R/B for rocket body. I think the claim is this never really separated from the rocket body, so it spins in a weird way, and sometimes you'll just get like 10 to 20 seconds, maybe a minute, where you get like no signal, and it just comes and goes, like 20 dB fade depth. But then it'll come back and be real strong. It's just a slow kind of spin. So it looks like our pass is starting here from north to south, and
Satellite
I'm going to go ahead and start
rising.
Tracking that in SAT-PC32. So I have the VFO off. I'm going to pick the USB and LSB data mode Doppler file entry that I have here. Important to note the Doppler correction on the 10x speed. If you don't do it at least 5x, if not 10x, it won't correct well enough for you to work FT4. So VFO mode's off, and then we'll start tracking that. And sometimes, just to have a different view, I like this to show me the 3D footprint of the satellite, which just gives a little bit of a different projection there. And then I'm generally using gpredict for my awareness of where that is in the sky. So gpredict, to do the Doppler correction, we go into radio control, and I usually put this window on the other screen. I just hit engage, and now it's connected to the RigCTL server of SDR++. Track, set to the transponder, and lock means if I tune around in here, it'll follow whatever I tune it to, and then T will just put it right back on where it should be. Generally, when I start a pass, I center this real quick, and then stop centering it, just so I can see everything that's going on here. So as this rises, we need to get set with the amount of power we're going to use. I usually turn this way down and just check on the actual radio. I have a camera pointed at that right now so you guys can see. And this is where we get to talk about the fun issue. Ooh, there's some SSB voice already. I can actually make it so you guys can listen to that in just a sec. But the fun issue with the UI updates on the 9700 as the Doppler correction goes as fast, you can't really push the buttons here, which is why I'm using the WSJTX digital gain to tune the power. Then by looking at this power meter, I can get a real indication of what kind of transmit power I'm using. And other than stay below the beacon, which has been the mantra for many a decade now, with keeping our transponders in good health, the linear ones anyhow, and being courteous to other users, you need to watch your maximum output power, or set the multi-knob down to 50 watts if you're on a UHF uplink and you live in one of the several exclusion zones around the country. Now I live here in FN20, which is not one of the exclusion zones where you have to go ask permission to run more than 50 watts on 433 megahertz. But if you do, and you should check the law, because they don't teach you this one for the test. I don't think there's a question even in the pool. Just make sure you're mindful of that. Generally, it's if you're near like a military base or something. Okay, so let's make it so you guys can hear this. Oh, and it looks like AK3Y got in my passband here. So I'm going to hit the tune button, and that's going to transmit a CW tone. And I'm looking for myself in the waterfall, and here I see myself pretty close right there, and similar power. So I'm going to go ahead and let's call him back. And basically we'll just tune this up till we just barely can decode ourselves. And we'll get it at a level where AK3Y can decode me. So here he just answered me and he's giving me a +1. And I'm telling him that I'm hearing him at a -18. Now, because of the omnidirectional antenna setup that I'm running, this is a very typical circumstance for me, where I will see a lot of low signal strength reports from others of me, and they'll give me a stronger report. I just need to be mindful that my power is an appropriate level and not stealing from everybody else in the transponder. But that's to be expected because they're probably pointing a directional antenna and have much better signal-to-noise ratio from the bird as a result of that. You can see the beacon here saying RS-44 in Morse code on the waterfall. That's kind of cool. I'll hop down to this other SSB voice conversation. Same guy, AK3Y. Call CQ here. So he's coming in like -12, -8. So I probably want to make sure that my decodes of my own transmission are somewhere around -12 to -8. Because he has better awareness of the typical method of using this bird, which is with directional antennas, than I do. So I'm at like a -7. I can probably use less. Now, actually, you don't need all that much power to do this when the birds are up real high in the sky. Even RS-44, which is pretty far away, I can get in on like 5-10 watts off an omnidirectional antenna. But when you get to the low elevations, the huge advantage of FT4 for the omnidirectional setups is the ability to take these passes where normally you would be able to work it above 30 degrees and that's it, which is eliminating the vast majority of passes, to, oh, if it's above 7 degrees, wow, you can get to codes. There's -7, I can go down more. We good to go off that one? 1815, 1808-15. So another thing that this is really useful for is checking that other people are using the same part of the passband as you. At least if they have strong enough signals to really see it here. There's somebody trying to find themselves.
Okay, Roger. Sounds very good. Thanks again for jumping on here, and have a nice weekend. WV7QF2W8M.
Can look him up real quick. Oh, and you're probably wondering why this waterfall completely goes out when I transmit. This is a problem unique to the VU SATCOM mode where UHF is the downlink, because the VHF transmit has some probably fairly significant third order harmonic contribution, which is not like filterable by passive filters. You have to actively grab that, re-inject it, and cancel it out. So the 9700 is able to still keep the waterfall in a normal state when it transmits, but my AirSpy kind of suffers a bit. What's interesting is that I can still sort of hear the voice when that happens, but it's just completely changing this far. Usually I can't hear much or see a more significant impact when this happens, but I'm assuming that's a result of running more power, making that third order harmonic even more powerful. Look at that beacon coming in real strong there. Yeah, I need like basically nothing to get in at this high elevation in my sky here, like 55 degrees. Oh, and I always forget to do this one, but you can come in here and hit RS-44, and then you'll see the elevation here, as well as here, and the visual display there. minus 13. We can get this up. Or no, this is probably the fade depth. Or lots of people being on the transponder. Now that's some interestingness. Still beacon. I'll go see if I can. The FT4 echo all it is. Alright, let's hop down. 6, 1, 3. And I can zoom in on this. Just want to see if anybody's drifting. I'll go down. Listen to the beacon. Everybody likes beacons. Zoom back out, look at these guys. Oh, W4 BCX. That's a new call for me, actually. But I did see sometimes I get decodes in the left window, but not the right window, and that's beyond irritating when that happens. Got him. All right. All right. There's me calling him. A -11, which is similar signal strength things. That's good. My last signal did not decode. I'm back. See there. Okay, there's some sideband back. It's looking better. Okay, we got somebody else calling me. And he said 73. Okay, so we're good there. See, I got the decodes in the right window, but not the left. Ugh, weird. Let's call him back. Oh wow, he's strong. He's 0 dB. By the way, I don't recall if I said it in this video yet, but WSJTX, the power indicators are obviously measured with respect to the bandwidth of a single sideband signal hitting the noise floor. So 0 dB would be 2.5 kilohertz bandwidth. Single sideband, you could hear it. And of course, you would need a +10 equivalent to do SSB voice here. So this is basically saying if you're at -10, you've got a 20 dB advantage over typical SSB voice strength required to complete the QSO. So we've got 3 QSOs on this so far. I'll CQ again. Back to doing that. And this is about the time when I'd say I hit center on this, and we go to 605. 7 is where we're at. Ooh, You can actually hear some FT4 now there. We're seeing 173, right? All good. Oh, it's kind of secure. Where am I? 1562. Yeah, no, okay. He's coming in real strong. W3 FGP, W4 BCX. Somebody's overlapping with me, so I'm actually just going to hop up in the passband here, and I'm going to do it from this window. AK3Y's back. W3 Ti, worked him before, but I didn't get the decode over here. And of course, the obvious reason for not getting decodes over here could be you're transmitting when that happens. It's annoying, but there's not really a current way to get WSJTX to listen while you're transmitting in the same. It's the whole point of running two instances. So then you have to wait, or you can put the call in manually. Like you can type out the message and send the first one, and then get the exchange going. But like you can see, it's a pretty active spot. RS-44, high pass, middle of the day on a Saturday. We're gonna have like 4 or 5 QSOs on this, which I know it's no John Breer on the FM birds getting. I think he's done at least 7, and he's probably gonna see this video at some point and say, no, I've done way more in one pass. I got W3 Ti. I've worked him a number of times on here. AK3Y does skeds if you reach out to him on the listserv. In fact, most of these guys, if you're trying to get into this, just shoot an email to the MSAT BB listserv, and somebody will hop on any of the birds that work at a sensible time to make a contact. RS-44. See, I like that the beacon for RS-44 actually says RS-44. In contrast, many of the beacons seem to send random CW, and I'm not sure what that's about. In like Oscar 1, Oscar 2, they sent HI, and the speed of the transmission corresponded to the reading out of the temperature sensor, but like, I'm really not sure why they seemingly send random letters these days, like the CAS4A and 4B birds seem to do. If somebody knows, put it in the comments. So here we've got RS-44 getting down to like 10 degrees. But this will still be workable because of the magic of FT4. Just gotta give it a sec. See, I'm still getting decodes at like minus 15, and I'm hearing minus 2. from 182100. See if that voice is still intelligible. Yeah, I'm not getting to codes anymore. So it's like, in this particular circumstance, 6 degrees, not pushing any more out of it. I've definitely pushed 2 degrees out of CAS-4A, CAS-4B, because they're in a lower orbit. But RS-44 down below 10, kind of hard to work with. Just hitting a CW tone to see if I still even show up. Should show up right about there. And I do, but only barely. So anyhow, I know this has been, the demo part of this is a little bit rambly, but that's just usually what it's like. Saturday afternoon, RS-44. If you liked the video, please drop a like. If you disliked it, leave a comment, because the dislike button is in a not so great state these days on YouTube. And please do consider just following me on alternative platforms. Can't let the single tech overlord have everything. I am on Odyssey, and there is a BitChute archive as well. Have a great day, and 73 from Kilo Bravo 3, Whiskey, Foxtrot, Quebec. Hope to hear you on the birds.